Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MCJ Report number 119. Let me know that you can hear the broadcast loud and clear. Thank you everybody for your patience. MCJ Report a couple minutes late, my apologies, but I hope that everybody is doing well and that everybody had a nice weekend. I can see many of you in the chat right now. I'd like to welcome everybody to the broadcast. We are live right now on YouTube and on Rumble, that's right. So give us a score out of 10 for the broadcast to let me know if you can see and hear everything clearly. All right, so on tonight's show is all about protests in Australia that took place over the weekend. We, of course, saw quite a large disparity between the scope of protests that were held throughout the country. Perth, I would say, hands down, took the cake. I was getting estimates from people on the ground of between 12 to 15,000, which is a tremendous effort. I'd have to think numbers would be really huge in Melbourne if it wasn't for the heavy police tactics, but we're going to get into that a little bit more in the show. We also saw a tremendous turnout in Adelaide. Brisbane looked great, and unfortunately in New South Wales it looks like the protest movement is really unable to get going at this stage. But there was a different type of protest planned for Sydney. That's right. A pro-lockdown protest was planned and nobody showed up. So maybe their way of protesting in favour of lockdowns is to stay at home or something like that. But that's not exactly accurate. We're going to talk about what happened in Sydney, and we have a lot of guests on the show this evening. That's right. We have every city I just mentioned. We have a representative, which is really wonderful. This is what we want MCJ Report to be. We want it to be an independent news source by the people, for the people, and we're well on our way to achieving that goal. So I can see many of you in the comments right now on Rumble. Welcome everybody. I'm very grateful for you being here. You could be doing anything else right now, but you're not. You're here with me, and I really appreciate it. If you've just tuned in, you're watching MCJ Report, and I am your host, Morgan C. Jonas. All right, so anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this show on the road. Let's get it started, shall we? Before I do, I'm just going to drop the link in the Telegram to make sure that any last-minute people have not missed out on the MCJ memo. So let's see, just live now. Trying to multitask here, that's right. MCJ Report, I have to say, is a one-man band. That's right. So it's a one-man band. Your host here. I'm the producer. I'm the sound guy. I'm the tech guy. I'm the researcher. We hope to grow the team of MCJ Report. That's right. I don't want it to be just me forever. We want to bring lots of people in and have a great team. All right. So let's get it started, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? I'm always excited on a Monday. All right. No, that's not exactly what we want to be looking at. All right, so I've got a really nice announcement to make, and that announcement is that MCJ Report 119 is proudly presented by FATV Jerky. That's right. So we've teamed up with FATV Jerky, a great local Australian business based in Geelong. So this is an Australian-owned, Australian-made business. They produce beef jerky, and we've teamed up. So what does that mean? That means that presented by, I will be showing you the products and actually showing you an interview with Tony. He's a great person. He's a freedom fighter, and you'll be very fascinated by his story. Should you choose to purchase some of these products, you'll be supporting a local business, supporting a freedom fighter, Tony, and MCJ Report will get a kickback. So full disclosure, This is a way for MCJ Report to, of course, increase revenue so we can grow. And I've been really particular in how I wanted to do this and who I wanted to partner with. For me, partnering with a business is what's most important to me is that we share the same vision. And Tony is definitely a freedom fighter. So I'm going to tell you about his story. Okay, so first of all, the website is fatvjerky.com.au. I'm just going to show you a little bit of the website here. But before I do, I'll introduce you to the owner, Tony. So Tony's ex-ADF, he's ex-Navy. He's an honourable person. He learnt to make beef jerky in the Navy and was later had some medical issues, so he had to leave. He took those skills combined with some recipes from his wife's family and created a business out of it. The business is based in Geelong, and recently Tony has been barred from attending markets where he mostly sells his products due to the mandatory vaccination policy. So Tony is holding the line. He said that he doesn't want to get this injection, and as a result, the markets in the area have barred him from operating his business there. So I'm going to play you an interview between Tony and myself. It goes for about 4 minutes, and I hope you enjoy it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined here by Tony from FATV Jerky. Tony, welcome to MCJ Report. Now, to get it started, would you mind telling us a little bit about why you started your business and talk to us about the nature of your business?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Morgan. Well, it first started when I needed to drop some weight to pass my aviation medical when I was in the Royal Australian Navy. So I started making jerky for myself. The guys loved it. I started selling it to them, passed my medical, got accepted. I should say not accepted, but recommended for to be pilot in the Navy. I did my back, got medically discharged, and I thought, well, I need to do something to survive. And the wife said, well, you know, we've got a good product. Let's take it further. So I went to one of the local markets here in Geelong. We sold out on our first market, and I thought, we've definitely got a product here. Let's go do what we need to do. And went and passed all the licenses that we need with Prime Safe here in Victoria, because they're the meat authority, and now we're up and running.
That's really awesome that you took a skill of yours and turned it into a business. Could you talk to us a little bit about the products and some of the different flavors, and where's your business based, by the way?
Sure. So we're in Geelong, and the recipe was basically from my wife's side of the family. We came across a recipe book in my wife's mother's books when she passed away. And my wife was reading it. She's like, oh my God, this is a jerky recipe. So we tried to do as much as, as close as we could to that original recipe from Peru. And, we're using Australian ingredients instead, because we can't obviously import everything from over there. And so our closest recipe, I suppose, to that recipe is called sazon. So sazon, we say, is just it's a Peruvian term for point of perfection. So it's just our perfect blend of herbs and spices with just a hint of chili. And from that one, we then expanded to barbecue, hot and spicy. We recently got a wood-fired oven, so we started smoking our jerky, which I remember you had some of the smoking hot.
Yes, I did.
So the smoking range seems to have taken off, as well as sazon.
Absolutely, and yes, as a consumer of your product, I can vouch for it. Now, Tony, something else I wanted to touch on, and that is that via your business, you've been active at various markets selling your product, but recently, of course, we've seen with the Daniel Andrews government the rollout of these proposed jab mandates. You've actually been barred from operating in certain markets. Would you mind just telling us a little bit about how that came about?
Yeah, so we're doing several markets around the Surf Coast and in Melbourne as well, and trying to get out to Ballarat and Bendigo. And basically, the emails have said that without the jab, you can't come to the market. So they want verification through email of anybody that attends on our behalf, or even us, for their vaccination certificates. And without it, we can't attend any of the markets. That's basically cut like 95% of our income.
That is absolutely ridiculous, and we're all opposed to this madness. But Tony, thank you very much for sharing that with us. Now, how can our viewers at home order some of your products?
Sure. Well, we do have an online store, so it's fatvjerky.com.au. And because I'm here with you, we decided to give all the viewers a 5% discount just using the code Morgan. And with that, they'll get 5% discount and delivery to their house.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tony. So that is fatvjerky.com.au. Enter the code at checkout Morgan for a 5% discount. I can vouch for Tony's product. I'm a consumer myself. So Tony, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, mate. See ya.
Bye.
All right, so a big thank you there to Tony. Tony from FATV Jerky. It's great for us at MCJ to partner with like-minded businesses. So I encourage you guys to check out the website. There's lots of great flavors to choose from. I can vouch for Tony's product. Tony is also a freedom fighter, which is why I'm really happy to partner. And basically the arrangement is, if you guys want to buy some jerky, you'll support a great business. Get some great jerky. MCJ receives a kickback, and if you enter MCJ at checkout, you'll get a 10% discount. So that's fatvjerky.com.au and MCJ for a 10% discount. All right. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to the action, shall we? Put your hand up if you attended a protest over the weekend. Actually, don't put it up too high because you might get a knock at the door and you might get charged for exercising your civil liberties. But we're not going to stop doing that, right? We're not going to allow anything or anyone to stop us from exercising what is simply our God-given rights. Now, I have to say there were protests all over Australia, but Perth took the cake. We've seen in the past Sydney taking the cake. Melbourne has taken the cake a few times, which makes me very proud to be a Melburnian. But the estimate I received, 12 to 15,000. So I think what I've put there on the poster, 12,000, I think is actually a little bit of an underestimate. That's right. I've never seen a crowd like this in Perth before. And what this demonstrates is social proof beyond reasonable doubt that when people are left alone and when people are not faced with the brutal boot of a police force, they get out of their houses in masses to oppose this absolute tyranny that has been perpetrated against us by the government. You know, the mainstream media calls us crazy and that we're conspiracy theorists. Are all these 15,000 people crazy? I mean, this is really nothing compared to what's going on around the world. And around the world, you see protests becoming massive, tens of thousands of people, and the same brutality from police. Now, I've got a little bit of a highlight clip from Perth. It goes for about a minute. I'm going to play this for you right now. Just absolutely awesome scenes there from Perth. If you're from Western Australia watching the show right now, put a comment below. That is absolutely bloody awesome. I love seeing my fellow Australians standing up for their freedom. We're not going to back down. We're going to hold the line. And ultimately, it will be the people that prevail because it's we the people that have the power, not these governments, not these busybodies that like to dictate what you must do at all times. The message must be loud and clear and constant, and that is that the government, the politicians, they need us more than we need them. And when we are free to exercise our civil rights without being trampled all over and assaulted, we get out in massive numbers because we're calling this fraud out for what it is. Okay? I've been reading some reports on some very educated estimates of the infection fatality rate of COVID. Any guesses what they are? Well, we've known this for a long time, and I'm going to start talking about some of these publications a bit more on the show. We're talking about figures like 0.00 something, and for some demographics, 0.000 something. So if these figures aren't enough to give people a kick up the backside to help them to realize what's actually going on, then nothing will, okay? Now, here's something else really awesome about Perth, and that is that we have our great Western Australian MCJ correspondent back, Matt Dillon. Matt is doing a tremendous job standing up for freedom and representing the rights of his family. He's been out at many protests. We love having Matt on the show. I've got an interview with him. It goes for about 5 minutes. We're going to play it right now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined here again by Matt Dillon from Perth, Western Australia. Matt, welcome back to the show. Now, I've seen footage, I've seen photos, and I've been receiving reports that there were 10,000 plus people marching on the streets of Perth. Is that accurate, and can you tell us a bit about what happened at the protest?
Mate, we had a massive day on Saturday. Mainstream media would like to tell you that there's only 2,000 people there, but the official reports from the police put it at between 12.5 and 15,000. It was amazing.
That is absolutely massive. Now, Matt, what do you think it means, given the fact that so many people took to the streets? What does it mean?
Well, I think it means that people are not only waking up, but they're realising that these mandates are really going to affect their lives sooner than later. The guys out in the mines, they earn big money, mate. They've got a lot to lose.
Yep, definitely. Now, what, if anything, surprised you about the protest?
Just the unity and love and peace with everybody. This is my 5th rally now, and this was the best. The atmosphere was just amazing. I've got something I'd like to share with you from
Please.
Someone who attended their first rally. I'll read this out to you. Yesterday, my partner and I attended the Australians Unite Against Tyranny National Rally Perth edition in Forest Place. This was my first ever rally, and I've got to say, I was so impressed by the day. The atmosphere was amazing. It was peaceful yet empowering. It was strength. It was huge in numbers, and the biggest one yet. Thank you to the organisers, everyone in attendance, and the police for making the day a safe and memorable day. The inspiration from this lady's song for her sign came from a song that really resonates with her. And I'm sure I'll bleep, you won't do what you tell me.
I love it. That is absolutely brilliant. Thank you for sharing that with us. Now, another thing, Matt, we see, whether it's a freedom rally in Australia, Italy, Canada, or anywhere else in the world, we see a concerted effort to try and delegitimize those that are taking to the streets. We've seen labels such as far-right, neo-Nazi, etc. Would you mind telling us a little bit about the common type of person that was there at the rally?
Well, the common type of person that was there were FIFO workers, healthcare workers, just general people, mate. My wife attended her first rally this weekend. As you know, her mandate comes next Friday. It was a very emotional day for her, an emotional weekend for her, in fact.
Absolutely.
Yet again, The Premier, Mark McGowan, he likes to label us as troublemakers. I don't understand why he likes to label us as this. And also the Western Australian reported that they were FIFO fraudsters. Yet again, I'm not too sure what a FIFO fraudster is.
I have absolutely no idea. Now, in my view, when you have people in such large numbers taking to the streets, it should be the duty of the politicians to listen and address the concerns, not to belittle the people and make disparaging remarks. Are there any politicians in Western Australia taking the concerns of the protesters seriously?
No, there's not one politician here, mate, that wants to support us. Not one person at all. You know, we've got the McGowan government that is running at 80% approval rating still. Like, the people here just love him. There's no opposition in Parliament. I think the opposition has 4 or 5 seats. So he's just got this state in a stranglehold.
And if you had a message, if you could speak directly to Mark McGowan right now, what would you tell him? Just go for it.
Mark McGowan needs to stop these mandates straight away. They are putting so much pressure on people. I only got to look at myself as an example. You know, my wife, I found her in the shower on Sunday, broken down in tears. It just become too much for her. This has got to stop. What's he going to mandate next, mate? 5-year-old kids? No way. This has to stop. Now, been in discussions, and we are trying to organise a national strike, mate.
Sure, tell us about it.
Going forward.
Yep, no worries.
When we finish our interview, I'll have a chat off air with you on a couple of matters, but we really need, if we're going to do something, a strike is the way to do it. Stop the loading of iron ore, stop the mining, and we've got the power, mate. We've got the power.
I absolutely love that idea, and I'm going to do what I can to back it as strongly as possible. All right, now, Matt, before we wrap the interview up, do you have any final messages for our viewers here in Australia and also our international audience?
Yeah, yet again, I just want to thank the people of Perth for coming out en masse on Saturday. It was an amazing place to be at. And also want to thank those people that have taken the time to join up on my small little Perth Freedom Fighters page. I woke up on Sunday to have nearly triple the amount of members I had. So I was very, very happy.
That's awesome. And can you give your page a plug so people know where to find you?
Yeah, it's Perth Freedom Fighters. I've got a Facebook page and a Telegram page. I try to promote everybody who's a freedom fighter across my platforms. You're promoted on there, Real Ruskin, everybody. So I'm just another person getting the message out.
And we appreciate you doing that, my friend. Thank you very much for giving us a recap, and we'll have you back on the show really soon.
Thanks for having me, mate. Much appreciated. Mate. And thanks to all your listeners.
Our pleasure. Chat to you soon, mate. Bye.
Cheers, mate. Thanks.
All right, a big thank you to Matt Dillon. We love having you a part of the show. And ladies and gentlemen, rest assured, Matt will be back really soon covering the action from Perth. All right, let's keep this moving along, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? All right, here we go. Brisbane put on a great rally as well. Perhaps not the same size as Perth, but they came out in numbers. An estimate I received was 2,500, but somebody told me from Brisbane just before that may have been a lot higher than that. So once again, I'm going to show you a few highlights, and then I'm going to introduce you to somebody new. And here it is.
They're coming, y'all.
The border. Open up the borders.
Absolutely awesome work, Brisbane. Good on you. Keep exercising your rights. Keep standing up, and I believe that in the end, good will prevail. Alrighty, now, ladies and gentlemen, I have another interview for you. Let me just pull it up for you in just a second. Alrighty, so I'd like to introduce you to somebody new on MCJ Report, Bridge Walker. Bridge was there on the ground, and she kindly put her hand up to jump on MCJ Report to give a recap. That's right. Now, Bridge has a really interesting story that I wanted to share with you before we get started. She comes from aged care, from the private sector, and she was actually stood down from her job before COVID because they wanted to mandate the flu vaccine. Now, Bridge said that she shouldn't be forced to take a jab if she doesn't want to. She lost her job and she actually became homeless. She's fought her way back and she's standing up now, stronger than ever before, still standing for freedom, representing Australians' rights to choose what they put in their body. She's been conducting some independent journalism work on the ground. So we're absolutely delighted to have her on MCJ Report giving a Brisbane recap. I've got a video here. It goes for about 5 minutes. I'm going to play it for you right now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined here today by Bridge Walker from Brisbane. Bridge, welcome to MCJ Report. It's great to have you here. Now, let's get stuck straight into it. You had a great rally on Saturday, a rally for freedom. Would you mind just talking to us a little bit about the crowd size and the energy of the event?
Sure. Thanks for having me too, Morgan. I really appreciate it. So when the energy was high, I was there a little earlier, and it was especially high because I was greeted by some anti-vaxxers who were protesting outside the botanical gardens.
Anti-vaxxers?
Yeah, anti-vaxxers.
Oh, anti-vaxxers. Okay, interesting. Yeah. What happened with that?
Yeah. Well, they were quite noisy. There was probably around 20. Most of them appeared young, say, university sort of age, stereotypically. And police were sort of keeping everyone away from them. So I was across the road. I found that was probably the best view to live stream.
Interesting. So they were there essentially advocating for more lockdowns and a greater extension of the police powers. Is that what they were wanting?
Yeah, well, in effect, I know where you're coming from there. I guess, that's certainly one way of looking at it. One of their one of their signs actually was saying, "Don't be a scab, get the jab."
Okay. So they're pro-pharmaceutical corporation sort of advocates. Interesting. I think they may be popping up in a few different cities. So talk to us about the rally. What's your estimate on the crowd size?
Yeah, I would say roughly 2,000. All walks of life. I would say all demographics. A wide range of ages, so you had some kids that were there, and then you had some, people in their 60s there as well, and everything in between. The energy was it was peaceful and quite high, especially during the march.
What are the major concerns that protest attendees had when demonstrating over the weekend?
Just the corruption, the mass censorship of mainstream media. Just how our rights are being taken from us. How the government's just increasingly really dictating to us what we can and cannot do. There is, of course, signs regarding medical, our right to choose medically, what goes. Oh, actually, there was a lot more this time, I would say, about work-related mandates with people, with workers, essential workers having to vaccinate. So, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, well, we've definitely seen a huge erosion of our rights under this guise of healthcare, and we see people rallying all over the world, right? When we're here in Melbourne, when we're not getting beaten down by police, we have thousands upon thousands of people in the streets when they feel it's safe to go out and rally. So now, before we wrap it up, did you have any final words for the country?
Hold the line, guys. More and more I'm hearing that people, loved ones, are getting vaccinated. And if you've chosen not to, be strong, hold the line, know why you're doing it.
Absolutely. You heard it at home, guys. Hold the line. Bridge Walker, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, a big thank you to Bridge for jumping on MCJ Report to give that recap. That is very, very much appreciated. Now, I think the interesting thing when we look at these pro-lockdown advocates is they're actually accusing the general public of being fascists. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing fascistic about standing up for personal freedom and standing against a large overreaching government. Fascism can be defined by a government that seeks to utterly dominate and control the population for the purpose of advancing the interests of the state, regardless of whose human rights they trample all over. And somebody advocating or actively advancing those state interests could be defined as a fascist person. Now, at our freedom rallies, you and I know we're out there simply asking for civil rights, asking for bodily autonomy, asking the government to get out of our lives and to stop implementing these coercive fascistic measures. So it absolutely boggles the mind how these young people are raging and screaming and calling names to all of these good, decent people. And I can tell you that I've been to a lot of freedom rallies, and people who attend are from all walks of life, and they are among the absolute best people that I've met. So it's just a little bit, I guess it's a little bit to be expected. I think there's a lot of indoctrination in universities, and I dare say that some of those young people that are running around calling people fascist in a few years' time may look back and feel a little bit embarrassed of their actions. What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Anyway, keeping on this topic, let's talk about this little movement that seems to be taking life here. There was actually a pro-lockdown enthusiasts rally set for Sydney, but the problem is nobody showed up. Okay, so they were set to head to Martin Place in Sydney to let everybody know how much they love lockdowns and how disappointed they are at the prospect of lockdowns not being a part of Australian life. And I suppose they protested by staying at home. They said, well, if you're going to go outside, we're going to protest by staying at home and supporting lockdowns. All right, so that's a bad joke. That's not exactly what happened. It seemed that for whatever reason, they just went and cancelled their protest, and it's kind of strange. But Sydney George actually went down there along with Chris Coveries. Chris was on the show before, in order to capture the action from the protest, which never happened. But they took some footage anyway, so I'm going to show that for you right now.
Hello, MCJ audience. It's Sydney George here. We're just in front of Channel 7, and we just want to let Channel 7 know if you wanted to find out what's really happening, go to the MCJ Report, because we don't try and paint a false narrative like the mainstream media do. Hello, it's Sydney George here. I'm just down here at Martin Place to cover a pro-lockdown protest with Chris from Chris Discoveries. To our bemusement, there's no one here. They just postponed the event 9 minutes before it was due to happen at 10 a.m. Chris, what's going on, mate?
got here on time, came for a protest. The police came, the media came, but no protest. And that's what we came here to see. So we expected it to be something small, 30, 40 people, nothing serious. But then not even one turned up for this lockdown to zero protest. Zero protesters showed up. So I was looking forward to hearing what they have to say. No protesters. Disappointing.
There you go, audience. Ever heard of a pro-lockdown protest? You can't make this stuff up. And this is Sydney George reporting from Martin Place. Thank you.
Oops, sorry about that. Yep, so Sydney George, awesome work, love your work. Who here loves the Channel 7 stunt? We absolutely love it. So Sydney George putting the mainstream media on notice. That's right, the independent media. We're coming up in this country and we're here for the people, not to slander the people like what they do in the mainstream. So I've got an interview with Sydney George about the events and to discuss this bizarre occurrence of the emergence of these pro-lockdown advocacy groups. Maybe they're supporters of Big Pharma. They like the products. They claim to be socialists, yet they're supporting the most corrupt and inhumane and wealthy corporations in the world. We're talking about the pharmaceutical industry. So it's kind of, maybe you could say there's a few inconsistencies with their message. Anyway, here's the interview between George and myself. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined here once again by Sydney George. George, welcome back to MCJ Report. Now, you were at Martin Place a little bit earlier on in Sydney, out the front of Channel 7. Talk us through it. What happened there?
Yeah, hi Morgan, how are you? Chris from Chris Discoveries put me onto this protest that was meant to happen today at Martin Place. It was by Health Before Profits. And I said to Chris, who are these guys? They're pro-lockdown. I go, are you for real? Sydney was in a brutal 106-day lockdown, and these guys want these lockdowns to go longer. What about the mental health of these business owners? What about the mental health of the children? Are they looking mental health, or are they looking into the corona with a positive PCR test? And we say it's a positive PCR test, not COVID positive.
Yeah, exactly right. So let me get this straight. So this group, they said they were going to protest, and then they didn't protest. And what they're seeking from the government are more lockdowns, and they're in favour of medical mandates on people, or they're supporting the pharmaceutical corporations' products, or what exactly do they want, George?
Judging by looking on their things locked down even longer, that's what they want. Businesses are hurting, Morgan. We need to open up right now, and they don't like Dominic Perrottet's. We all want to open up right now and make Sydney alive again. We can't keep going like this, Morgan.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, it seems a little bit bizarre to me that anyone would want to be locked down. Maybe they're supporters of universal basic income or something like that. But anyway, George, what I liked about your trip to Martin Place is that you didn't let it go to waste, even though there wasn't a protest. You had a few words to say out the front of Channel 7. So what was all that about?
Channel 7, they'll put in fear porn, especially when we had this brutal 106-day lockdown, trying to say people get vaccinated. They don't talk about early treatment. They were just all pro-lockdown and shutting businesses down and just trying to get people to dob on each other. That's not un-Australian. We shouldn't be living in fear, Morgan.
I could not agree with you more, my friend. Well, hopefully we see some solid pro-freedom protests in Sydney soon. But before we wrap it up for today, do you have any words for the audience?
Melbourne, we're with you. Stay strong. Daniel Andrews can't keep doing this. Something has to give. United we stand, divided we fall. We need to stand together as one, Morgan.
I love your words, brother. Sydney George, we'll have you back on the show really soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan, and thank you to our MCJ audience.
All right, a big thank you there to Sydney George. We love having George as part of the show. We'd love him to be full-time MCJ. We hope that can happen at some stage. What you're going to see soon from Sydney George will be some roving street interviews. That's right, we're getting the microphone set up. George will be hitting the streets of Sydney to conduct some on-the-ground interviews. And by the way, if that's something that you might like to do in your city, send us an email, mcjreport@protonmail.com. We're always looking for ways that we can expand the show and to add new dynamics. So again, Sydney George, Thank you very much. All right, now on to Adelaide. Okay, so Adelaide did a good job. The estimate I received was approximately 3,000 people, a really solid crowd getting out, standing up for freedom. I've got a little bit of a highlight clip of the protest that goes for about 1 minute, so I'm going to play that for you right now. Awesome job to Adelaide. I absolutely love it. It's great to see people getting out there. Now, I just have to say something, all right? I'm not trying to sound like a sore loser, but I think that here in Melbourne, and I mean no disrespect to my other fellow Australians, but if we weren't getting trampled on by Victoria Police, I believe truly we would have cracked 100,000 people on the streets of Melbourne if it wasn't for the police brutality, the rubber bullets, and the tear gas. And what this simply demonstrates is that we, the people, are not buying the fraud and corruption of the government. We see it for what it is. And I know that there are many of us holding the line, and the battle has really just begun. So if you are holding the line, buckle up, because it's going to be a long fight. Now, what I have here is an interview with James Hall. He's from Adelaide. He's been outspoken, standing up for freedom, standing against the government. He's been active at protests. I have a little interview to just give a recap of what happened on the day. It goes for about 4 minutes. I'm going to play that for you right now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined here by James Hall from Adelaide. James, welcome to MCJ Report. Now, to start off with, could you please talk to us a little bit about the rally in Adelaide over the weekend? How many people roughly do you think attended? And talk to us a little bit about the crowd.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me, Morgan. So I was at the rally on the 16th of October on Saturday. There was probably about 3,000 people, I would say, roughly. And it was, I've been to a few of them. I think this is my 4th protest I've been to. There was definitely a lot more momentum. The numbers were quite big, probably one of the biggest we've had. And also just the sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Just the sort of passion behind it was a lot more intense than I had found in previous protests.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. Now, here in Melbourne, and we've also seen throughout some other cities in the country and overseas, the media has attempted to, I suppose, delegitimize the message of the protesters by labeling them certain terms associated with extremism. Did you see anything like that at the protest?
Yeah, I looked at a few social media posts of the mainstream media outlets afterwards. They seemed a bit nicer that particular time. They did call us a freedom rally. Usually they call us like an anti-vax rally or something along those lines. So that was kind of nice. Of course, they underestimated the numbers. They said it was in the hundreds, which I suppose is technically true, but it's a bit misleading. But they definitely do that. And the thing that gets me the most is you can see them there. They're actually in the crowd, they're filming, and then it's obvious that they've come out with not just, it's not just a mistake, it's an actual lie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd like your take on it. Why do you think that lie is perpetrated?
I think it's hard. I think a lot of it's just incompetence. A lot of people want to put it to some big conspiracy, but I think a lot of it's incompetence. And that's a big part of it. But I do think that, the government advertises a lot on those networks. The government's basically a big customer of those networks. And I think that it is against their interests to go with a sort of pro-freedom or pro-the movement sort of message.
Definitely. Now, about the rally, was there anything that surprised you on the day?
Yeah, I was quite surprised by the turnout, because the turnout at the start wasn't huge, and then it started really filling up. I thought it was really good. And as I said, it was really not just the numbers, but just the sort of passion and the intention and the meaning behind it seemed very, a lot more intense than the previous protests that I've been to.
All right, perfect. And what were the overall concerns of the protesters? What were they asking for?
Yeah, so the main thing is just in SA recently, we've just brought in a vaccine mandate for nurses. So I think that was a big part of it. But it's generally a freedom message. We heard from a few candidates from some minor parties that are running at both the federal and state level. And yeah, it's sort of anti-mandates, anti-passports, pro-freedom, I would say is a good way to sum it up.
Perfect. That's definitely what we need more of, for sure. All right, now, is there any other message that you'd like to get out to the people of Adelaide, Australia, and or our international audience?
Yeah, I think it's just great to have so many people supporting freedom. And I know it can seem pretty tough, particularly in this country at the moment. But it's good to see there's so many people who support. And for every one that comes to a protest, there's probably at least 10 that wanted to that couldn't. And it's good that we can support the people like you guys in Melbourne, where we can come out and where you guys can't. So I just hope we can get a bit more of that coming.
Perfect. All right, James. Well, thank you very much for your time. Keep protesting, and we hope to have you back on the show soon.
No problem. Thanks, mate.
Thank you. All right, a big thank you to James from Adelaide. Now, guys, James is quite active on Twitter. His handle is in the description of this video, so feel free, if you're on Twitter, to go ahead and give him a follow. And let's keep this show rolling along, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? All right, now, unfortunately, very much unfortunately, there was a protest planned in Melbourne, but it was sabotaged by Victoria Police, okay? We all know why. We've all seen what happens at protests here in Melbourne, and the scenes get very ugly very quickly. Not because the protesters are violent, because we've seen the use of force from Victoria Police to the likes of which we've never seen before. We've seen elderly women beaten to the ground and sprayed. We've seen the use of what is described as non-lethal weapons, which I say have the capability to kill. And I dare say this is why the protest scene in Melbourne has been very quiet. Now we have our very own Anthony Lev, who was apprehended by Public Order Response. He produced a great live video, classic Lev style, roasting the police, doing what he does, standing up for his civil liberties. I have just a short clip that goes for 2 or 3 minutes detailing some of the exchanges Anthony had with Public Order Response, and then you'll hear from Anthony himself.
Public Order Response team right there. Here we go. For what reason? Yeah, for what reason? Sorry, for what reason? Am I free to go? For what reason?
No, you're not free to go. So
okay, what's the reason? No, but for what reason?
Because I'm asking you.
Yeah, but I need a reason for that.
Because of COVID restrictions. Can I get you?
Again, we're finding out why you don't have a mask. There's chief health officer's condition.
Okay, but I was stopped first before I was given a reason for being stopped.
Again?
Yeah.
No,
I'm just being nice. I'm being nice. I'm a peaceful person.
What's the purpose of the flag?
It's just it's my property. Like it's a good. I like the flag. It's nice. Thank you. It says don't tread on me.
Don't tread on me.
Yeah. It's a freedom flag. It was born out of the American Revolution. Okay. Yep. Processing team. How many to process? Like 5 or 6?
It's just opposite the end.
A bunch of people with guns surrounding me, you know. It says I can't have a flag. Can you please show me that? Can you show me the direction that says I can't carry a flag? No, wait. What? This stole my property. You guys are thieves.
No, you'll be able to get it back.
Yeah, but what's the point? What are they going to do? Oh, RIP flag. Just stole my property. How do I get it back?
Yeah, we'll sort that out.
But what's the point of taking it in the first place? What's the point of taking it in the first place? You guys have committed a crime again. I need to report a theft. Can I please report a theft? I need to report a theft.
You just want to wait a few moments, Anthony. We'll get you all the information that you need.
Okay, but
Now, what we just witnessed there, ladies and gentlemen, I consider nothing less than harassment and robbery in broad daylight. Now, I have an interview here with Anthony. Many of you know Anthony for his advocacy work, standing up for our rights. Anthony is a business owner based here in Melbourne. He is an entrepreneur in the industry of music and entertainment. His business has been severely crippled by these horrendous policies. We love having Anthony on the show. He'll be back really soon for a complete Lev report. But what I have here is a 9-minute discussion between Anthony and myself regarding the events of Saturday here in Melbourne and the absolute shambolic state of affairs in the state of Victoria. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined here by Anthony Lev. Now, Anthony, as you know, there's been protests all over the country. There was a protest in Melbourne over the weekend, but as it turned out, you were actually not able to get into the protest. So walk us through it. What happened?
Yeah, well, first of all, I didn't actually make it into the protest location because I was stopped by 6 public order response team officers as I was walking in. So what I was doing, I was with a group of about 10 people and walking down Sydney Road. I was doing my live stream because I like to live stream a few particular key moments of the protest, the start being one of them. Had my flag, don't tread on me, the Gadsden flag out and about. And it didn't take long for 3 public order response team cars to flash their lights, pull over. One guy jumps out and starts pretty much immediately requesting my identification, which I kept asking him at least 5 times. I think you can see at the start of the video that, for what reason, because they can't just arbitrarily ask for your details. They need a probable cause still. I wasn't wearing a face mask. He could have said something like that. That's fair enough. But he didn't. And then he ended up saying something along the lines of that it was just a random check or I can't remember his exact words, but it was along the lines of that. So a bit dodgy, a bit of a mistake on his part straight away.
Yeah.
So then from there, I was just obviously surrounded by 6 members of Port, and I think later on a couple of other normal police officers rocked up, and they had me for about half an hour, just asking the normal questions. What are you doing out? All this kind of stuff. I said, yeah, I'm here to protest a corrupt government. I'm just fundamentally there exercising my rights. I'm born and raised in Melbourne. It's the city I grew up in, and I'm just there to walk around, exercise my rights, attend a protest because we have disagreement with what the government is doing. So it happened for half an hour. So, I like a bit of humour. So you take the opportunity. I live streamed it all. They did some pretty absurd things like taking my flag away from me. Allegedly,
what was their reason for doing that?
Well, apparently because it's against the chode directions to protest, and the flag was going to be used in the protest. It somehow gave them the right to take it off me. So I immediately said, well, my clothes are being used in a protest, so do you want those too? And I can walk down the street naked. But then I immediately called out the nonsense of the idea of them taking my property in the first place. Because if we're in an alleged deadly pandemic, which these officers are trying to stop a gathering from happening, why is my flag, my property, being handled by a police officer not wearing gloves?
Yeah, and whatever gathering you were or weren't involved in, all of those police officers surrounding you, they made the gathering even bigger. So why do you think it took so long? If they wanted to give you a fine or a move-on order, I don't understand why they didn't just do that straight away, get it over and done with, instead of holding you up and standing around in a big crowd. I don't know, man. Why do you reckon they did that?
It makes no sense. And I even pointed it out. I said, how come you guys are basically gathering in these numbers? And the reason it was they're working. So I said, does the virus know the difference, or does it understand the difference? Like, how does it know? So, and yeah, but on top of that, now I've got to go to the police station and pick up my flag. So they're adding all these extra nonsensical steps in, which all these directions that have been in force were to reduce contact with people. So why are they just nonsensically adding this extra step where I have to actually interact with other human beings in a supposed deadly pandemic? I think they just took the flag just out of spite, just to get back at me, because it's not the first time they've had me surrounded, and I give them a bit of back and forth. People around the world need to see the absurdity of what's going on, the complete nonsensical policy they're enforcing, and the contradictions within that policy, but fundamentally the fact that we can't even walk around our own city outdoors in the fresh air without being stopped by police officers.
Yeah, it's absolutely disgraceful. And we hear the Premier, right, Daniel Andrews, banging on all the time about it's all about restricting movement. And we have Victoria Police increasing your movement. Do you think that they'll be receiving some sort of fine in the mail for increasing movement during an alleged deadly pandemic? What do you reckon?
Of course not, man. These guys are immune from both COVID-19, but also immune from any consequence of their decision. Apparently, like they basically can do what they want, and the police officers know that they're a protected species. It's very difficult to get justice against wrongdoing when you've had a wrongdoing against you by police officers. In which it's on my mind recently. I think one of the things that's happened over the last, say, year or year and a half that protesting's accomplished, and the filming of the police, shout out to the Aussie Cossack to film the police, it's exposed the corruption in the police force and the, rather than the Victoria Police being a separate entity from the government upholding the right of individuals, it seems to be a political arm of the government, which is very corrupt. And they're basically just doing what the government tells them to do. So I think the brutal actions of the police force to members of the public over the last year and a half, and this ongoing enforcement of government directives, has really exposed what was probably always there in the police force. Like, we've known there's corruption there, but these protests and the filming of what's going on has really exposed, not to just to us on a local level, but internationally, the problems within Victoria Police and their relationship with the Victorian government, which is hugely problematic for a society that is meant to be democratic and free.
Yeah, I echo your sentiments 100%. Now, let me ask you this, one of our final questions here. If this continues unchecked, where do you see Victoria and Australia heading, say, over the next 5-10 years?
That's a good question, actually. The question is, can Victoria continue down this path on their own, separate to what other states in Australia are doing, or will something similar transpire Australia-wide? Because we have seen heavy-handedness in New South Wales as well, so because the other states and their behaviour will put pressure on Victoria and affect things moving forward. So it's really tough to say where it's going to go. But I mean, obviously, if it continues, hypothetically, if it does continue down this path, it's only going to strengthen the police state and remove rights from individuals. Because the combination of Victoria Police just enforcing whatever the government tells them to do, and the knowledge that these police officers have that they can virtually get away with absolutely anything. We both have a friend who's had his back broken by the police. Other people have been injured by the police, aggressively assaulted. They feel like they can put their hands on anybody and get away with it. And then not only that, the intimidation tactics, which they seem to have dropped, the visits to the house maybe before protests. But yeah, that's problematic in itself, and I'm not sure how to fix it, because if governments keep getting in power, knowing that the police are just going to do what they want, that's pretty much how police states operate.
Yeah, absolutely. Something needs to be done. I definitely have a lot of concerns myself if we continue down this path of unchecked political and police power. It's very concerning. But anyway, Anthony, thank you very much for your recap, and we hope to see you soon for a full Lev report. That would be great.
That will be happening very soon. We'll get that cracking very soon. Get Lev report up and running, and get some regular content.
Love it. What are we up to now? Is it Lev report 6 or 7?
I think it's 6.
All right, love it. All right, well, can't wait, my friend. Chat to you soon.
Thanks, Morgan.
See you, mate. All right, a massive thank you to Anthony. Anthony is an absolute legend. I can tell you, out of all the people that I've met since the inception of this corona situation, people doing great advocacy work, standing up against this absolute tyranny from the government. Anthony, I have to say, has been one of the most staunch from the beginning. He's always standing up, and I'm telling you right now, this man is very courageous, and we love his insight and commentary and hope to have him back on the show really, really soon. All right, now, ladies and gentlemen, this pretty much brings us to the end of the show. I hope that everyone's doing all right. Is everybody doing okay out there on Rumble and YouTube? I hope it's been an interesting show for this evening. It's just puts you in a good mood, doesn't it, when you see Australians standing up for what's rightfully theirs. I know a lot of you are experiencing a really difficult time right now. A lot of you are holding the line, like Tony, our new partner from FATV Jerky, being stood down from the market where a lot of his income comes from, standing strong. And we're in for one hell of a fight, ladies and gentlemen, but we're not going to let these people get away with it. We are absolutely not. Now, I need to get going pretty soon because I'm going to be on an American show in about 25 minutes, hosted by a wonderful individual by the name of April Moss. Some of you may know who this is. April worked for CBS. She worked for the mainstream media for 9 years in the United States. And live on air, she just dropped a bomb. Live on air, she said she was going to Project Veritas to expose the corruption and the agenda of the mainstream media, which of course have been so prolific, fear-mongering, suppressing information about, say, early treatment for COVID, alternative remedies such as ivermectin and so forth. She left CBS after 9 years, started her own show, and she invited me to be a guest on her show. So, of course, I'm humbled to be on April's show. I'm going to ask her to jump on MCJ Report because I know that so many of you would love to hear from her. And I think that she's inspiring to have a job in the mainstream media and to speak out live on air and to receive such bullying from the corporate people in mainstream. She's just an absolute legend, a truth seeker, and I hope that she can serve as inspiration for some of the mainstream media in Australia who know damn well what's going on, but they don't have the backbone to say it. So, ladies and gentlemen, that just about wraps us up for the show. All right. If there's one thing you do today, sign up to my free newsletter. That way you can make sure we never lose touch. If you would like to financially support the show, you can do so at mcjreport.com/donate. Every bit helps. And that just about wraps it up for this evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to thank everyone watching right now. I can see you all in the comments. It's really a pleasure to have you here. There's Sharon. Sharon is always around. It's great to see you. There's Rach, Hills, whatever's, Spud Loves Life. The usernames are pretty funny, some of them. It's great. It's great to have you guys here. MCJ Report will be back tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. Take care of yourself. Stay strong. Hold the line. I'll speak to you really soon. Thank you for watching.
Mm-hmm.